Whoa! Sorry. Waiting. Um, as usual, by my tag team partner, co-conspirator, um, brother from another mother, the Beard. We're here on
Cheers.
Sunday morning, and Sunday mornings going forward in order to prep our games and hopefully help you prep your games as well. If you have questions, comments, concerns, death threats, put them up in the chat. If you want to assist us, we might have some questions, and we both are willing to take your ideas and spin them into our own gold. So this is a lot like I do many things in life collaboratively. So this is a forum for us and for you to build, share, and create. Beard, how are you this morning?
I am fantastic.
What are you working on?
Right now, I'm working on boom. Oh, that beautiful comment I just tossed on the Twitch. Class is in session, baby. I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I'm running a new weekly campaign. I have an idea that I want to both teach a class and run a game that is a many worlds kind of multiversal game based on Hugh Everett III's theory of quantum physics. I got things going on, but primarily my new D&D game, Drakewind Falls, which is also here on twitch.tv/NoneWorldUnited. So very exciting. How about you, sir?
Normally I would be prepping for Down in Outlands, which is a game I've been running for a while now, where the players are playing orphans, for lack of a better term, who have been adopted into a very unique family, and they were living in the city of Sigil, but strife has hit them, and they are all finally back together, and with some of their older siblings of their extended family, and they're trying to free them from a maze imposed by the Lady of Pain. And spoilers, they may get out of the maze, but they will not be going back to Sigil. Their time in Sigil is over.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're one of the SLKs, spoilers. We didn't really talk about how we work around that.
I trust I trust my players as well to not be metagamers. But since it's Valentine's Day and one of our players can't make it, we discussed this a while back and actually had an episode where my players built dragons, because I'm a big fan of the old box set, Council of Worms. And while I think it did not work the best in that edition, I love the concept. And I found on GM Binder a fan content, basically redux of Council of Worms, and I love the idea of doing it. It's something different, and it allows my players to play very high level dragons. So also I can tie it into the multiversal, or I should say omniversal threat that is kind of underlying throughout the whole campaign, as these dragon characters are also potentially dealing with similar issues. So tomorrow night will be our first episode of Oops All Dragons.
Nice.
3 out of the 4 players will be there. So I am in the process of doing my prep for that game. Our show will be about an hour long. It'll be prep. Again, if you are prepping a game or you've got ideas or whatever it may be, feel free to jump in and join us. That's kind of where we're at. So Beard, what prep method are you using?
Oh, I think you know what kind of prep method I'm using, baby. I'm using Sly Flourish's Lazy Dungeon Master Prep, which you recommended highly. I know that you had been trying to figure out how to scale back a little bit on prep, just in terms of, I think both of us maybe I won't speak for you. I sometimes obsessively prep because I don't want to be caught, especially with my former group, but certainly with this current group, we've added someone that has given kind of even more experience. They find, I think like any good game, they find ways to expand and broaden the story in ways that we don't anticipate. And so I always felt like having exhaustive prep for that was what I should do. And I think that the Sly Flourish Lazy Dungeon Master Prep has been great, because it has all of the kind of expansive like preparations for things without being exhausting. It's exhaustive without being exhausting. And really, like 2 pages, like front and back of a page.
Something like that. Yeah, similar. I mean, I think it's something like that. I've been guilty of too much and too little. I used to do just reams and reams and reams of prep, and then Antagonize, our friend Zach, had showed me his prep was basically just a note card, and I was like, oh man, that's interesting. So I had been going with a very, very slim prep style, which is great, but at times I also felt like for Dungeons and Dragons that wasn't quite enough. So I too have been using Sly Flourish method. It helps me organize. It helps me get, especially my monsters, down where I can know the pages. I can have the digital books out, and I can just gank out what I need. As well as just kind of reminding myself where things are with the players we play every 2 weeks. And that can be, for someone who has some memory issues, that can be rough. So, I enjoy it very much. So do you want to share your prep screen, or do you want me to share mine to start off with?
Why don't you, I have mine here, but maybe I can show, I don't have a fully, well, here, I will share. I will do it. I'm brave. So,
oh, wow.
So
yeah, you're using Notion, correct? You've gone full blown Mike Shea.
Oh yeah, I went full blown Mike Shea. So so I have a Drakewind Falls Notion. I'm starting to populate this. I have locations. Some of them, are just the kind of existing ones. I'll say we also built our setting out using Microscope. So I have a ton of I have a kind of wealth of information to be able to plug in, that I didn't just generate, and that's like not in my head, but it makes it a lot easier for me to do all this. So my notes, the way that they are set up, the session notes template is basically, super straightforward. Review the characters. What's your strong start? What are some potential scenes you might have? What are some secrets or clues that might occur? What are some locations? Who are NPCs? Then, like you said, monsters, having treasure, things like that just make it so much better. And it's a little different because, also last session was our very first session. Like we did a 0 session, and I have some notes for that. But, I basically, my strong start was kind of this narrative to kick things off. Usually for my second one, I'm just, kind of typing up kind of where we left off. So I know that. And then, thinking kind of like what that first scene is. But yeah, I basically have the different scenes that I wanted, an introduction to the different characters. I said introduction to Fern, very Belle from Beauty and the Beast, that song from the animated feature. I want to dig into Horton at home. One of our characters has 5 younger siblings and is only 19 and, lives with his parents in the kind of town of our setting while he goes to school. Highland, another character, kind of making his entrance. The entire scene I wrote was Highland lumbers down Moody, because Moody's another character. And then Becker does Becker, tied to Horton. And that was basically it. Kind of a couple secrets and clues, but didn't completely, exhaustively fill it out. And then my locations, I was able to kind of copy and paste some of the locations that I created using do you want me to show the Excel document that we used?
Sure.
So this was our microscope. We went through, and if you haven't checked out, it's a great game by Ben Robbins. You can find him at Lame Mage. And so we made this kind of big shared history. And then, people wrote stuff. So I have like all of this to draw on, and I've been working to consolidate it into like basically using this for artifacts and objects, who some NPCs in our world are, geography of the world, like broken down by regions and kingdoms that I borrowed from some work our friend Alex Johnson had done in the past. And then each of the characters went through and like did a player character basics, stats, description, backstory, and kind of hometown. So a lot of it's going to be kind of copy pasty into this, but it just allowed me to kind of set the thing. No monsters in the first introductory episode, and NPCs. I kind of winged it. I didn't get through all of my prep, but it's a beautiful tool. It's a beautiful tool.
Sure makes sense.
Yeah. How about you, my friend?
So I am using just a very streamlined version of that.
Ooh,
hey, that's
me.
What I want. That's you. I'm trying to share my page, but it's not letting me.
You click the share button.
Yep. Oh, no, I didn't. That's why.
I was like, uh-oh. It's all gone off the rails.
So here is the GM binder that I'm using. I've got all my mini Dropbox folders open. I just use just a basic
the Word document
of it.
And he has the Word document available, I think, on his Patreon for free, or like through his website for free, I think.
Yeah. And if you're a patron, which I can't express enough, that you should really, really, really become a patron of Mike Shea. It's relatively cheap, and all the stuff you get is nutso.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of putting together where my session will go. So when you run, Beard, what sort of what do you look for? Like what is your time and all that good stuff? What are you trying to do in what kind of matter of time?
Yeah, we actually kind of changed a little bit in that we shifted over to actually taking a cue out of your book and doing a 2-hour block of time. And so that's kind of where I've been kind of setting my expectations on. I mean, we did kind of a 0 session where we kind of tested out just to see kind of how long kind of a mini dungeon would last, and then thought a little bit about kind of what we can do in 2 hours. Previously, in the game I ran, we did kind of 75 to 90 minute sessions, and that can be a bit short. I think 2 hours, as you guys have found, kind of give or take, is a lot more reasonable in terms of kind of like developing a thread and having like multiple scenes play out before you wrap. So yeah, it's a 2-hour slot. Also 7 to 9. We're streaming every other Saturday on Known World, and you guys are streaming every other Monday. Oh yeah, as you can see, boop, 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 right here. But yeah, that's kind of where kind of my head's at. And so I think that, it's a bit, to me, it was a bit of thinking through kind of what 2 hours looks like. And it was a little bit of fill in some places, and like getting used to 2 hours from like those hour and a half chunks or a little shorter is That's challenging, man. I don't know how you do it sometimes. I think it definitely takes some adjusting to kind of settle into that. But for me, it was about kind of setting the table. So I basically had those 4 scenes I wanted to do. I kind of want to introduce each of the 4 characters and then find a way to bring them together. I didn't want to just be like, you all meet at the same place, you know each other. Even though they had met in the 0 session, we were like, okay, that's canon. Like we actually like wrote up a little like blurb about the session of Warrior's character taking them on like a tour, and it was like a tour of this abandoned cave, but the abandoned cave ended up being like taken over by some ogres, and there was hijinks ensued. Let's just say we were sad we didn't record the 0 session. But yeah, that's how I've been thinking about it, at least, is just trying to kind of either break it into those kind of general scenes and having a bunch of different options for those, but saying like, I'll get through probably like 2 to 4 scenes every session. But again, like we said before, sometimes you can't anticipate what that begins to look like, you know?
Yeah, I find that 2 hours works really well. I have to do a lot of meanwhile and jumping, but I enjoy that. It's more conducive for my thought process, and it allows me to break chunks up.
Sure.
And in D&O, my PCs have been relatively split up.
Yeah.
For the most part. And that's helped as well. I like that type of storytelling a great deal. So I don't mind that. It's a little different when everybody's in one place, and it's harder for me to do those jumps, and that I don't think always makes the game as good as it could be.
Yeah. But it also, I think the thing that I really admire about that is when they are all together, it's like a matter of great import. You know, like it feels bigger. Which is great. Hey, you can see King Ginger's face. Hello. What's up, Shaggy? It's a different method. You know, I think certainly it doesn't kind of keep with the trope of like, don't split the party. But I think from a narrative perspective, it's so interesting to me that you've been able to sustain that for as long as you've been able to sustain that, you know?
I like I said, I think it works best for how the storytelling I like to do. I like that ping-ponging.
Yeah.
And I feel like it keeps players from getting from checking their phone too often, because they never know when I'm going to go. And now we're moving over to, and then they're on the spot. They're on the spot, so they have to be able to, adjust. And it makes everything that's going on where they're not there important.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, how do you find that you try to balance in each session for things like that, or do you just try to create a kind of overall balance where people are getting that? Because we talked a little bit about that when we were discussing games the other day, and one of the things I never thought about with the like Sly Flourish prep about like putting in your own characters' stats, but then also like their skills, is that I can't remember. I was trying to remember who said it, but the idea that, similar to what you're doing, where like each character kind of has a chance to shine, or there's a little bit more focus on them in the storyline than kind of them as just part of a group, that like skills checks or things like that, if you're cognizant of what people are really good at or really bad at, you can kind of manufacture situations for them where they can have a great character moment, either through, critical success or critical failure, or, anything within the spectrum of that. How do you feel about do you feel it necessary for like each player to shine in every episode?
No, I used to worry about that incessantly, but what I've realized over time is with the players that I have, they're far more interested in the overall story. So they don't ever feel, because I generally will ask them, I'll say, hey, did you get enough screen time? Because there are episodes where, while everybody gets some time, it's, it can be very Acco-centric or very, Amulet-centric or Charity-centric or Twig-centric at different times. But I find that if I can keep I try to boil it down to who is this character? Like, what is their archetype in the group? I mean, like, it's easy in my group because it's Ryan is, Akko is boils down to a very specific archetype. He's the guy who thinks he's 10 foot tall and bulletproof. So yeah. I try to put that character easy. I try to put that character in positions where he gets to prove he's 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Sure.
And gets to be shown at times that he's not.
Yeah.
Charity is, I think, got maybe the most interesting kind of thing going overall, because it is like that character was an NPC in Shannon's Own Games. So that character has a backstory built into that world, to that homebrew world, where they are very determined to do whatever it takes to protect their friends in that world. And that's all they really want to do, is get back and be able to do that. Also, there's the temptation of power, because they need power to do what they want to do. So if they're constantly being kind of given that opportunity or temptation, will they take it? And they have at different times.
Sure. What's
Amulet is a Kender and just isn't afraid of anything, and just is kind of, everything's great.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's Tiamat. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, the boat's on fire. Cool. There's an army of skeletons. I get to smash because I say my magic word and I turn into a giant person with a sword, basically playing kind of that body transformation barbarian, similar to like He-Man or Captain Shazam. I'm sorry. Amulet says a magic phrase and then gets big, turns into a different character, basically. So that one, and Cassandra is generally the hardest to pin down on motivation, because Cassandra is the player who doesn't always have any. That's not meant in a negative fashion. It's just, that's not the way she thinks, and that's not why she plays D&D. There's no kind of grand overarching tale she wants to tell.
Yeah.
I think Nate is the hardest. Twig is the hardest because I don't know. So it's difficult for me to kind of wrap my head around that sometimes. I tried to build in the Torm thing, and then I realized fairly early on that didn't work. So I was able to course correct and use Baron Samedi instead.
Nice.
I think Twig's thing is just, I think the whole overarching of the campaign, though, is family.
Yeah.
When you hear your family. They have this massive adoptive family, and there are things about that family that are super cool, and then there's things about that family that they'll find as they go along that aren't.
Yeah.
Like every family. Yeah. Well, there's some insidiousness behind how they've been brought together.
Yeah.
That it's been alluded to, but it's never been outwardly stated. It's so for my Oops All Dragons game, though, I don't know the names of the players because that's something that they haven't told me yet.
Yeah.
But what I do have is the information I'm pulling off of the actual episode. So what secrets might they uncover? There's an overarching theme about ancient powers, like pre this multi or omniverse. Kind of, I took it from the idea of Galactus, kind of being from a previous omniverse and being a sole survivor, but occasionally we'll see characters come in who are also from there. What if there was a small group, maybe a pantheon, who didn't get to be a part of things? They were cut out at the last minute. They've been sitting in the blind eternities between reality and unable to find their way back, and now they have. Or slowly find their way back, because inevitably it's the end. People with power or wanting power have figured that out and want to draw them out to get power. So my unmakers are kind of constantly sitting on the outskirts of things. So one of the clues they might uncover is that this is going on. My regular group knows this, but I want the dragons to find that out early on. Other secrets and clues, I haven't figured out exactly, because I don't know everything. I know that when we built these characters, they have drawbacks. And backgrounds. So Ryan took ambitious, and his drawback is that he has a rival. And when you have rivals, they don't have to be a specific person, but it can be an organization. It can be anything that has equivalent power levels. Because they're dragons, that can be an organization. It could be a cabal of individuals. Nate's got hunted, and he's got ambitious. Cassandra has monarch as her drawback, and inquisitive, I think, as her background. She hadn't quite decided. Shannon, who won't be with us, has the fact that she has a wormling. And her background is that she's a mediator. So the fact that
that seems like a stretch.
We talked about how maybe even Ryan and Nate's characters are rivals. Because Nate has ambition and so does Ryan. So maybe they are competing for something. So we've got to kind of sort that out. It'll be an interesting, not so much a 0 session, but like a 0.5 session. So it won't be a full lazy DM fill out. So fantastic locations. The Council of Worm takes place in the Blood Isle, which is like this. I'm using it as a demi-plane where dragons basically go to meet in relative peace and parley. Because they're dragons, I told them there is no alignment. You are beings above alignment. The council area is kind of like the council hall, but I've changed that a little bit as well. To me, this is a giant open-ended, like Colosseum-esque, but it's divided up into sections where you can beseech dragon spirits to give you information. You can meet with master, great worms, and they can discuss with you what they want or need from you, or what your obligations are, or you can again beseech them for knowledge. Also, there's 2 massive subdimensional portals where you can make sacrifices to Tiamat or to Bahamut, to ask for basically for boons. There is an isle called the Burning Isles. There's a bunch like these. Like this subdimension is just like islands. It's chains of islands.
Cool. That's awesome. It sounds like the way that I framed the plane of elemental air for you guys, like early on.
So on the Burning Isles, there's a massive red worm named Firebrand who basically controls that area. One of the areas they're going to go to is this. They get basically called to go to Firebrand's treasury, which I'm putting in the middle of an active volcano.
Oh.
So his horde is on little islands, little moats, both floating in the lava and floating in air. I'm going to call it the Cauldron. The reason they're called there is a villain that they met in D&O named Olgstog, who is the offspring of Ogremok and Lamashtu. Ogremok being the primordial of Earth, and Lamashtu being the demon mother of monsters. And he works with a group of characters that are enemies of the SLKs, and destroyed their home on Sigil. He has come to the Burning Isles to steal the Orb of Dragonkind. So he's like this massive, gargantuan, giant-esque monster. I don't think I've ever even described him. He's got like a body made of like rock, basically. So let's try to figure out what he looks like. Body made of stone. Lamashtu generally has like a jackal's head.
Oh, interesting.
And generally is carrying a blade of fire and a blade of ice.
That's cool.
So we're going to say he has the head of a jackal, and one hand is always burning, and the other is always encased in ice. So he helped his erstwhile partners in storming the open house in D&O because he wanted to steal the cask of All Winter, which he was able to do.
Cool.
So he's got his own plans going on.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I want to get across, is because the SLKs and the dragons don't really meet. They're operating parallel, that this character, this bad guy, is still doing things. It's moving on its own pathway. It's not waiting for like the SLKs to track it down. It's like just sitting in a castle going, I can't wait for those kids to get here and try to kill me. Like, it's got its own plan.
He's not a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important to have a good living, breathing game, is to have a game where I know they call them fronts. I want to say, I think it's maybe 13th Age that does that.
Yeah.
Where your villains are doing things. They're not stagnant. So that's another reason this game, I wanted to make sure I'm using it in that fashion. Oh, hey, 3 people watching. Hello, 3 people. How are you?
Hello.
Throw your business up in the chat.
Yeah, I like that there is an opportunity for the game to be very different, for kind of what you have going on with the 2 different games per se. I think sometimes I don't know. I mean, it's a new way to think about what do you do when you don't have all your players. I think that's a hard conversation to have, but I like having kind of an alternative, an alternative option. And I think Oops All Dragons is both funny and catchy, but also just like fun to be able to do.
And it allows them to play very, very, very powerful characters. They get to do very, very awesome stuff. Because my plan with D&O is to slow things down and to use more of so the only bad thing sometimes is I think we operate on creative parallels, you and I.
Sure. Yeah.
Because when you were like, oh, the school thing, I was like, shit, I'm getting ready to take from Strixhaven very heavily.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, this sucks. I don't want to feel like, I don't want it to feel like I'm copying you or either way. But it's kind of like X-Men Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol showed up 3 months before the X-Men did.
Yeah.
But which do you remember?
Yeah.
But they're the same concept. They are very, very, very similar in concept.
Sure.
Even in character. But I mean, it's not that DC and Marvel were, sniping ideas from one another. It just they had the same idea at the same time. Swamp Thing and Man Thing are very.
We all exist in the same like cultural milieu, and I think
we all live in a world where Adam Cole exists, baby.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's it, right? There's certain things that are just part of like the cultural consciousness that like come to light, and I think especially Doom Patrol and X-Men, that kind of like outsider mentality and how we frame like the other is such a big thing. And I think that for these, I think it's much different than like the games we had been running. So I think that there's something really Shaggy, sorry, Nightbot gets a little like about all caps. I know we've probably experienced that on here before, but I mean, you can't ignore the boom. You can't just have lower caps and one exclamation points when we're talking about one of the most beautiful men to ever exist on the face of this planet.
That's like trying to ignore the budge. You can't ignore the budge.
No, if Johnny hungry, he needs to eat. But yeah, no, I think that we both kind of, when we got Strixhaven, we were like, oh, structure and, like what would it be like for our characters to go through this, and I think that that's something that I don't think either of us have ever really kind of run our parties through a kind of heavily structured environment to see how they would react. And I think that, I mean, obviously there's some lineage here, I mean, I started playing D&D with you, 8 years ago. Is it 8 years ago now? Holy butts!
My D&O
like
game
2014. Yeah, it was like a couple years ago. Or
D&O has been going on for over a year,
like almost a year and a half, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, that's
I think Domains of Dread went on for like a year.
Yeah.
But we've got more episodes of D&O than we have for Domains of Dread. And Domains of Dread had an ending.
Yeah. And I think that that's the other thing, like, like Pasty Boys, I never anticipated it going 3.5 years as the first ongoing campaign I ever ran. I mean, the first time I ever ran was at Extra Life, because you were basically like, hey, if you talked me into this, you got to try DMing. And I was like, okay. But I don't think, I mean, I'd been playing, I think, for less than a year when I did that. But it was such a great experience. And I think that, I was talking with Warrior a little bit. He was gathering some resources about DMing or starting to DM. And there's like the Matt Mercer effect was trending the other day. And it was, it was this conversation, like people kind of came out and said like, well, yeah, but who's your, what's the difference between a highly trained group of character actors producing something versus even us streaming? Like I have no delusions that we are Critical Role, but that's not why we stream. I think that I stream predominantly just so other people can see like, hey, you can totally do this. You can like tell this super fun story with your friends, which is like what I always loved about when you got me into D&D. It was like, this is just facilitating a story that we're all telling. It's kind of like when we talk about professional wrestling. It's like everybody's involved. The fans are involved. The booker's involved. The wrestlers are involved. The ring announcer's involved. Like the commentary is involved. Like all this stuff. So yeah, Super Spike, totally spreading super fun stories and tea knowledge. That's what we're doing, baby. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's that great opportunity to like tell a story with your friends. And that's why I stream. It's not because like I have delusions that we're going to be like making all that money on all of this and everything else. Like it's also a great opportunity for like, folks that are hanging out, Shaggy, Super Spike, all of these kind of friend groups to overlap, and like when we do Extra Life, it's great to bring more eyes to that, but it's also just like, man, we can all do this and like have fun, have a little escape, sort through things that we might be trying to sort through, like independent of all the the bullshit we're saddled with when we're who we are instead of playing a role. And yeah, I don't know, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I look at it as just, it's community building, and it's encouraging people to, real life is hard.
Yeah.
And I really want everyone to feel like they have a space to do other things, do imaginary things.
Yeah.
Your imagination is a wonderful place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing D&D in some way, stretch or form, since I was a kid. I'm an old person now. So I want to be able to share that. Adults shared it with me.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to share that. It's one of the few things where I feel like I can give back, is just like tell stories. And as far as recording them and things like that, there is a weird component of making where, like, I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't create music, I don't write stories, I don't leave like a creative footprint anywhere. But like, let's say I get hit by a bus tomorrow, in like 10 years someone could come across something that we made, whether it was doing commentary or a podcast where I said Vince McMahon has outlived his usefulness to the universe and should pass away, so someone else can ruin his company, or in less nice language probably.
Yeah.
Or a D&D game, or talking about comics, or painting little dudes on Tiny Ming, whatever it may be, can hear that and go, oh, that dude did like the tiniest bit of contribution to create a process in his community. It's the same thing with like Extra Life. I don't do anything great for my community, but I do that.
Well, I would beg to differ. I think that's another conversation, but
it's a good thing. Like this is what this
is a good thing to put out in the universe. And that's why I was like, when you were like, hey, do you want to do this thing? Or like, should we make some, like some graphics and stuff? I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like this sounds like so much fun, just to talk about all of this, and to interact with people. It's super fun to see some of the Tiny Ming folks pop over and pop in, new folks.
And hopefully this will encourage some of you to get a game together. It doesn't have to be D&D. We used to play Worldwide Wrestling every like 2 weeks in my basement.
Yeah.
I've actually went so far as I made content for that game that the creator then adjusted and used in his book.
I remember that.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Like he asked about it. I was like, dude, I don't even need a credit. I just think it's cool you're using stuff.
Yeah.
And as wrestling fans out there on this, Worldwide Wrestling is awesome, especially if you have friends who love wrestling. As a role-playing game, it is chef's kiss. Star Wars, gosh, what else have we run? I've played on a Beyond the Wall podcast for a long time. It's a great game. All sorts of Powered by the Apocalypse games. So there are numerous amounts of role-playing games which are heavy, rule heavy and very crunchy bits. And then there are games like that are Powered by the Apocalypse that are just like so loosey-goosey. That's great. I played in a Fiasco game during Extra Life, and I love this system. I don't think I could ever run it, but it is the most loosey-goosey, beautiful system where you're basically playing in a Coen Brothers movie of some type.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome. It is
that was a great session to end Extra Life on, though, because it was batshit crazy. It was. I've never heard it described as a Coen Brothers film, but man, if that isn't like one of the best ways to describe like the the malleability of like where things can go in that game, where it's just sometimes it's beyond the pale, and sometimes it's that thing that's like staring you in the face.
It's a game. It's a game for folks who like to role play because there's no dice involved. It is you're doing scenes.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a game for like I got a chance to play a dumb high schooler who was not making good decisions, and it, you know, it ended the way you think it would in a Coen's Brothers movie. What was it? Burn After Reading with Brad Pitt.
Burn After Notice. Something. Or Burn After Reading. Yeah, I think you're right.
I got to play basically the high school equivalent of Brad Pitt's stupid character in that movie.
Yeah. Like the one in the trailer where Brad Pitt's like dancing with the Walkman on. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the beautiful thing of that is that's not me. But I try very hard to stretch myself when I play games to do things that I normally wouldn't do, and I try to run things that I would be interested in and hopefully can interest other people in.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think about doing some fan service right now?
Sure.
And rolling a little bit of
we have to.
Beautiful bean footage.
Do you feel like a champion? Do you worry that you don't look like a champion? Try Enhancement Talent Clothing and Gear. At our state-of-the-art facility, you'll find wall art. Not one, not two, but a spectacular 3 cats. This thing. Top-of-the-line sewing equipment that Enhancement Talent has used to make Enhancement Talent Clothing and Gear. Let us take you to the top of the card.
We had to
happen on Tuesdays. No, it can happen anytime now. You never know when it's going down.
You had to give it to him. Had to give him that beautiful footage.
So I have come up with my 3 scenes, and it's going to be a call to arms. That's going to be where I should actually say 4. There should be an introduction.
Too true, Super Spike.
Matt loves it.
So, call to arms.
It's introduction. Who are the players? Who are the PCs?
Oh yeah, the Dragons. Uppsala Dragons.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're going to kind of find that out as you go, right? That's going to be a kind of a live grenade a bit.
Nate and Ryan got me kind of their sheets in D&D Beyond. And Cassandra will ask me for help today. I'm like, hey, can you help me finish my character?
Yeah.
There'll be the debate. I will have an NPC. Will debate the merits of helping what is Red Dragon's dude's name again? Firebrand. Since he's a menace.
Yeah, baby.
But come up with the NPC for that debate. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm thinking maybe like a blue dragon. And then there'll be the battle at the cauldron. Because I'm guessing the players will go, yeah, but.
Sure.
So that'll basically be the session. That'll be the strong start. Will be. Well, actually, I'm thinking I might do a strong start like after they introduce themselves. The introduction may not even be a scene.
Yeah.
I think the strong start I might just do an in-res drop in to each of them doing something.
That's kind of what I did with the open for Drakewind Falls, and I really enjoyed it. It was like it felt very slice of life, which is something I sometimes miss about D&D. Is when you get to the point where everybody's very familiar with themselves. You don't get to see characters kind of role playing their character outside of the group situation or outside of a combat situation or outside of a, you know, if you have a questionable moral group, a murder hobo situation. And it was really nice just to kind of like see all of them in their own skin, or how they are just starting to think about their character. It's something I really want to focus more on in this campaign, kind of ongoing, to have some of those moments. And I think that what you do with Down in Outlands, like having them split up a little bit, and having some of these threads, they're allowed to role play a lot more, like authentically in that kind of split off piece.
So here's where it'll be. The strong start will be Ryan's character, whose name I can't even pronounce. Akurai will be being attacked by their rivals. So a group of hirelings are sent by their rival to basically to harry him.
Sure.
Hirelings. That's not how you spell that then. For Cassandra, her kingdom is under magical duress. I'm probably gonna a spell plague is turning her kingdom's sages supremes spell, say that fast, into living spells.
Oh, that's super interesting.
So living spells is something in Eberron, in this massive area called the what's it called? The Mournlands. The Mournlands.
Yeah.
Where it's basically like Eberron's like a Cold War is going on. It's a great setting if you like noir and like Indiana Jones, but you're like, hey, I'd really like some D&D in this. There was this massive war between 5 kingdoms, and then no one knows what or how, but basically a magical A-bomb went off and destroyed a whole kingdom.
Yeah.
And now that kingdom, the remains are called the Mournlands, and there are spells that have become alive. They have sentience and they do their own thing, which is crazy. So a magical plague has turned some of her kingdom's Sages Supreme's spells into actual living spells. And then
but not from basically like doing that kind of independent of the way that it happened in Eberron.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
I think I'll probably have it be a curse by a long-term enemy, by a background enemy. So I think another thing you have to think about when you're doing long-term campaigning is, do you just do encapsulated episodes?
Sure.
Or
do you do Star Trek The Next Generation, or do you do DS9?
Or I always use Buffy as kind of the, hey, this season has an overlying, bad guy.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Buffy storytelling theft person. I love that style of like, there's still little things that go on and they come to an end, and then you might have another monster of the week, but in the background there's still these things going on.
Sure.
So I think even with Oops All Dragons, and also because they're coming in, the characters are 11th level, they're going to have had backstory. Again, their lives haven't been in a vacuum, so I feel the creative license to go in and jam some things in there, which we talked about before as another concept that Mike Shea talks about, and I can't remember, he took it from someone else whose name escapes me, but they're called knives. When your players hand you knives, make sure they're sharp so you can stab them with them in an opportune moment.
Make sure they're sharp and make sure they get used.
Yes.
Like, don't just put them on the shelf. Yeah, actually, you introduced me to that, and the article, I'll put it in the chat from the Sly Flourish website. The article, and they did a video as well, is really, really good. If you run games and it's something that you're kind of interested in thinking about, it's I was really blown away. Like when you mentioned that, and then I went and watched, I was like, oh shit, yeah. There's a lot of things. I think we all stab ourselves in the foot with those knives sometimes because we don't want to go overboard sometimes, and kind of how mean we can be, or like how much peril we want to to kind of put our party in if we have other things kind of going on. But I think it's called Wielding Knives in D&D / Flourish. Just put it in the old Shatsky here if you want to check it out.
Well, and I'll use an example. Beard and I have played Project Zomboid together. And I'm playing Project Zomboid this Thursday night on Bad at Games.
Hey,
cheap plug. One of the things about that game that I love is that you can take you have to take, if you want benefits, you have to take drawbacks. And the drawbacks are way worse than the benefits.
Except for being deaf.
That only worked because you had me around.
I mean, it really didn't work in the end.
No. But it's the same thing. Like, if you want a great background, you have to hand out some knives.
Yeah.
Because no one wants a story that's stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I will constantly jump on certain people, Cassandra especially, about, is there's a reticence to take some knives because there's a fear that, and it's probably because we've been together for so long, but she knows how my brain works. And I'm like, oh, you just gave me something that will come back to haunt you in the most horrible fashion. But I think the other thing to remember about running games is you and I are both from the school of thought that be your players' biggest fans.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I throw something horrendous at my players or give them a very difficult thing, it's because I want to see how they overcome that, and I'm going to encourage them to overcome them and give them opportunities to overcome that because I want to see the story play out.
For sure. Yeah.
If anyone wants to see that not work, go watch Domains of Dread, which I think was like 18 episodes, because I had a player in Invite Deathmatch person, because I don't think he's Deathmatch King anymore. I think he's like Deathmatch Cowboy. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He sells honey mustard mostly, I think. Who he did not like, by the way. It was like too spicy for him, and like he didn't get a chance to taste test it before they started selling it. So he's like, it's actually like it's way too spicy for me. Like when I accidentally put in too much black pepper into a curry, he was like, I can't handle this, brother.
Ketchup's too spicy for that.
Oh, not the fancies, not the fancy kind. Oh god, too spicy.
So one thing about Oren as a player is Oren will hand you whole cutlery sets. All at one time. He's what I like to refer to as a shit disturber and a habitual line crosser. In gameplay,
feels very fair.
But that comes with consequence. And when you continually hand me cutlery, there is a point where you're going to get cut by that cutlery.
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of know that as a player. And the joy in the game isn't you getting cut, it's what you do with the wound.
Yeah, it's the story that comes out of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I think it's really important to, when we're building our stories, to take the time to try to think how I can encourage people to hand knives, and then how I can use them in a fashion that makes sense for a story. And still still give people challenges that can be overcome in 1 to 2 episodes. That's why I'm looking forward to in the future running Chaos Scar, because it is going to be far more of that episodic, next generation storytelling. There'll be some stuff in the background, but it won't really have much to do with the sessions themselves, because it'll be like, here's a job. You signed up for the job board. You want to do this thing and get paid for it. Fantastic. That's the session.
Yeah.
If you want to do some interplay in the keep area, in the town around the keep, some of the other things going on, that's cool, but you don't have to, because it'll be rotating groups of adventurers. It's one of those things. If you're in the chat and you want to try D&D, get a group of people together and contact me, because that's what this game is going to be. It's going to be all sorts of different groups playing in the same setting together. So some of their decision making will have an effect on future groups. If they complete a job, that job won't be on the job board anymore.
Yeah.
So, that's a different style game. It's what we would refer to as a Western March style game.
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at. Beard, did you get any prep done? I know we did a lot of chatting.
Not a ton, but I've definitely I made some notes while I was going along. And honestly, I think that, well, I may not get a ton done in real time, and I'll be kind of popping in and out as a guest, but I know that you have other folks that are going to join in and then maybe do some solo deep dives. But I think I'm excited that we are kind of off sequence of each other, in that you are kind of doing it, this Monday, and then I'm not running until next Saturday again. So we have a little bit of time to kind of think through that. And I'm really excited, because I kind of left the first episode on a cliffhanger, that they kind of finally get together for this experience. And then they're basically called up into the dean's office, and they walk in, and the end of the episode is the dean is standing in the office, and so are the 5 heads of the Council of Drakewind Falls. And this is the 4 of them have basically gone on a tour together and listened to the opening talk for spring term together, and that's kind of it. But all 4 of them have been called together for this thing. So to me, it makes a very easy, strong start in some ways, kind of getting that going. But I definitely have some ideas about kind of what those different aspects of the prep are, kind of based on what we were chatting about. So
one thing I really like about Mike Shea doing his podcast / Twitch stream video on YouTube, and one of the reasons I felt inspired to actually get this going was because he elicits information from the chat, and I think we've had a good chat with folks, which is awesome. I hope you guys continue to show up, and I hope you guys give us ideas. That's really what we want. But also because he gets stuff done.
Sure.
And that is a goal I have for
this space
prep school.
Yeah.
So I was able to get quite a bit done.
Yeah.
But also I still have some work to do. So we're going to wrap up here, and then I'm going to go finish my prep up. Chat real quick. I need a name for a blue dragon who's going to be a kind of shifty character who is going to push the NPCs during the debate and the Airy to not go help Firebrand. Firebrand, not a good person. It's a ancient red worm who is an murderous, greedy asshole. But I want this person to be kind of a conniving, younger dragon who's a little more magic driven, who has a desire. Shifty McKnife, dude. There's some who call him Tim.
That's me. Sorry. There's some who call him Tim.
I love Knife Tooth. Knife Tooth is
It's really good.
Knife Tooth's getting in. Now I need a good first name. Super Spike, excellent name. I was thinking about using Velenstig.
Yeah.
Velenstig Knife Tooth.
That sounds dope as hell.
Velenstig by itself was very meh.
Yeah.
Knife Tooth
it needs something like I bite and rip things.
Yeah. Knife Tooth is super, super good because it also feels like, to me, when I think of it, it's like a knife in the back,
I love it.
So I need a dragon who would be arguing like for keeping the balance.
Yeah.
So I keep seeing Jim and Tim.
Tim.
So I'm going to use the first name.
Jimothy.
Jimothy?
Yeah.
I need another last name. Super Spike, you're apparently my last name go-to. I need a good dragony last name for someone who's more of a mediator, more of a neutral figure. Also, hey, if you're a Tiny Ming watcher, been working on this little human bullet boy.
Are you on this week or next week? I can't remember.
It's a Down Outlands week, so I'm not. I'm on opposite weeks of.
But you can still go twitch.tv/HeelTurnRadio, Tiny Ming Tuesdays, Time and Dave, New Money Matt. Sometimes you're King Ginger. Sometimes me. Usually I try popping on when King's on though. Been resting my voice. I've been having to do a lot of projecting. It's a lot.
Don't hate Peace Walker. I just trying to think of synonyms.
Oh. So prep school will be every Thursday, and then the other thing is we're like you have blossomed into a content creator, bringing some of the things that you're doing off stream on stream and giving it a shot. So we also have your tomorrow will be down in Outlands.
Yeah.
Thursday you are doing
Doomsunder. Damn, that's a good name. I've got what I'm gonna go with, but Doomsunder is metal. That's so good,
dude. I'll use that.
What color dragon should Jiminy be?
I mean,
Shaggy, yes, definitely a master debater.
I mean, doesn't he have to be a green dragon, like the cricket?
Emerald.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, man. There's so much good stuff in Fizzbins that you could dig into with some of the like additional dragon types too. Oh, love that. Love that.
Hi, Huey.
Come say hi to everybody. Come on. The people want to see you. Come here. Come say hi. Where are you? There you are.
Hi, buddy.
Oh, puppies.
Hi, Ruby.
Huey and Ruby are here. Hi. Yes. Yes, I know you're talking.
All right. So I've got Velstig Knife Tooth and Jiminy the Traverser of Tranquility. That's all on you guys. So well done.
I'm gonna steal Doomsunder.
Doomsunders.
I
might name I want
to play a character named something Doomsunder.
I think Olgstog is going to have a club named Doomsunder.
Doomsunder Anonymous. I think I single-handedly ruined most good ideas that you have that are serious. Oh, hi. What's up? Yeah. Thank you. Well, should we do you want should we play? I uploaded the Bad at Games Open. Should we play that?
Olgstog has a magic club made from the femur of a great old worm, and it's named Doomsunder.
That's dope.
That is awesome. Super Spike, Shaggy, you guys killed it with your ideas. Thank you so much. Whew.
Should we send him out?
I got the vapors over these possibilities.
Should we send him out with the Bad at Games Open? Give him break him off a little preview of the remix for Thursday.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, eventually I want us to put out the Chaos Scar one, but I think we hold on to that.
Yeah. Well, Thursday, if you want to tune in, twitch.tv/KnownWorldUnited. King will be playing some Project Zomboid. I don't know, maybe I'll drop by and say hi.
Yeah, I'm going to play mainly run games, I think,
Yeah.
because you generally die.
Yeah.
And I've started to enjoy run games a lot, like Space Haven,
Nice.
where I kill entire crews of people, and then Project Zomboid, where I curse a lot because that game is very fun but very frustrating.
I feel that. All right. We'll play the trailer and then come back and say our goodbyes. But check this out. See if you might be interested. We'll leave the link right here while it's playing, so you know where to find him. Oh, yeah. And then come back here next Sunday for more of this sweet, sweet prep school.
Session. I will probably be working on different prep for something a couple games I'm working on. I might do a little world building, and Beard will be under the gun because no, you won't be, because your session will have already happened.
Also, I'll be sipping tea and hanging out at the Abbey, baby.
Oh, that's right.
A full rewatch of Downton Abbey.
I'll be solo next week, but I think I'll be talking about maybe a sci fantasy game I'm gonna be putting together.
Oh,
so yeah, a little like in the realm of Exalted or oh man, I can't think of the Monty Cook game. That's the book is like that thick.
You said Monty Cook, and all I thought of was Monty Hall.
I don't want to. There's Monty Cook, and I can't remember what it's called, which is real weird because I have it, and it's Podolus. Also did a 5e adaptation of it, as well as doing a thing called Planebreaker, which I was very tempted to do on Kickstarter, but did not have the cash at the time.
Alas.
But yeah, I like sci fantasy as well. I also have to put together prep for 2 future Star Wars miniseries, a superhero miniseries where the players, it's a continuation of my Extra Life game where the players are playing Z-list villains. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of. Oh, I've got a D&D game that's going to be taking place in a fictional. I don't know what West Virginia would be, Appalachia. So nice. Always got prep going. So join me. Apparently, Beard will be Downton Abbeying so hard, which should have its own little ticker on the bottom.
I will. I'll add. I'll add something.
And I will be here next week prepping. So thank you guys. As always, you're great. This is fantastic. So thank you.
Roll it, baby. Oh. Oopsies.